the other end of the relationship spectrum. And in anticipation of Friday, when Mamamia Out Loud's official wedding of 2023 is happening.
Don't worry, guys. We'll be live streaming for subscribers only. That's a joke. That's actually a joke. For legal purposes, that's a joke.
We bring you the most embarrassing wedding vows on the internet. A lot of people are sharing and finger wagging about these vows that this American guy called Michael Lantini made to his bride and the mother of his 2 children that have found a big life. Where else but on TikTok? Here is what Michael Lantini said in front of the celebrant who happened to be his mother.
Only 2 things are required to keep me happy. Keep my belly full and my balls empty. Though you're amazing at half of it, we really need to get you some cooking lessons. Even when my belly isn't full, there is no one I could ever love more in this lifetime, unless I actually get a chance to meet Margot Robbie. Since the beginning, I always told you I was going to make you the happiest woman in the world and give you everything I could possibly give. Well, today I'm taking a step further and giving you my last name, the last name of champions. No one deserves it more. With you and the girls by my side, I feel like I can conquer anything. Y'all make life worth living, giving every breath of every day a purpose. Life gets even better when the kids fall asleep and you tell me to come to the bedroom. Nothing's better than the sound of gagging and headboard slamming.
Michael.
Everyone keeps telling me that marriage is going to ruin a lot of things, but I feel that's only if you let it. Even if we fight, argue, or don't see eye to eye on something, it'll never affect the way I love you. Marriage is something I take seriously and I only want to do once. After almost 10 years, I still stand by the fact that you're my soulmate and it'll never change. After today, the only thing changing is me having to deal with the ring on my finger. You will forever have my heart, and that's a promise till death do we part. P.S. Since you're so good at making decisions like marrying me, you can choose whether tonight's going to end with being a toaster strudel or a Twinkie.
Alrighty. I'm speechless.
You're so
Being that I am his mom, I will deal with him later. He is grounded. By all means.
What is a toaster strudel or a Twinkie?
I didn't understand that reference.
No, and I was going to Google and then I was like, no, don't do it.
I loved also
But I assume it's a sex
the
thing.
voice you heard going, Michael. That was his mother.
I know,
who was
right?
the celebrant, as you said.
So the response to these vows, the most common one has just been with single emoji, red flag. Lots of people are just posting red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. To me, the fact that he talks about sex and cooking lessons and Margot Robbie in his vows, while in hers, because I watched hers too, because I was invested, she talks heartbreakingly in her vows. The first thing she says is, when I first met you, I didn't think I was good enough for you. And all you're doing is screaming at the screen, you are good enough for him. You are so
too
good.
That's insightful too.
I know,
That's
right?
also a red flag, her vow.
And she said, I know I'm no model and I can't
oh,
cook
wow.
and all this stuff, right? But the first thing I thought when I watched these vows is that these vows were not for her. They were for his friends. They were for the audience. They were like a ha, look, I'm not going to get up. If I'm going to say some nice lovey-dovey things, I've also got to throw in some things for the boys. That was very much my vibe. And I know people can say whatever they want in their wedding vows and that weddings are a performance. But this is gross. But to my 2 married friends, is it as awful as it looks?
So it's gone completely, absolutely viral everywhere. And it becomes the thing where I'm not sure how it was originally posted, whether it was
the photographer posted or the videographer posted
videographer
And I
posting
think
it.
they were a bit horrified.
And then the thing is that people then stitch it and share their opinion about it. And you cannot control, I think TikTok more than any other platform, you cannot control how viral something goes and whose hands it ends up in.
But that's just the internet, isn't it?
Oh, I think TikTok more, you really, at least on Instagram, you feel like you're sharing it to your network. On TikTok, who knows who you're sharing it to. I'm torn about this because on the one hand, it is absolutely disgusting and there is something viscerally sad about looking at that woman and seeing how she has put on a wedding dress and she has turned up. She is the mother of his 2 children and she has wanted to marry him and declare her love for him in front of everyone they know, and then he has made her the butt of a joke. There's that.
And now she's the butt of the whole world's joke.
And then, on the other hand, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with us being offended on behalf of other women. She's laughing throughout it, right? Which we all laugh.
She was covering her face. I don't think that's indicative of the fact that she was fine with it.
We all laugh when we're uncomfortable, so there's that. But I guess my question is, if she genuinely thought that was funny and she genuinely thought that's what our relationship is, it's quite sexual and kinky.
I would say this is a woman who has been negged so much by this man who brought up another woman in their wedding vows.
Well,
and how she's
Margot Robbie.
hot. How much she's hotter. Is that okay?
Well, no, but I mean, it wasn't like your cousin Sandra. That would have been worse.
Jesus.
The bar is low. The bar is very low.
I think that there was so much revealing in that in terms of how he sees the purpose of his wife. And it was about how he felt. It was about, I love you a lot and it's my belly and it's my balls and it's the sound that I love. I mean, Jesus. And you get to choose, you get to choose which of these sexual acts I perform on you tonight. And their kids were there also, as well as his mother. You got to wonder if that's what he says at the wedding. What does he say not at the wedding?
Do couples usually, I don't know these things. Do they usually okay their vows? Like, did you know what Claire and Rory, for listeners who aren't in the family, got married a month ago?
Yeah.
A month ago? And you wrote your own vows because everybody does these days. I can't remember the last time I went to a wedding when the vows were just your standard.
I don't think I did, but that's showing my age because that was like 20-something years ago.
So did you know what he was going to say and he knew what you were going to say? Because the other thing I felt really bad for about this woman, although I agree with you, Claire, I don't think we should necessarily be offended on behalf of her, is she went after him and she had this kind of look on her face that was a bit like, oh, his were all a big joke and now mine are like, you're my person and I love you so much. And that's a bit. So I just felt that I could just imagine the fight behind the scenes. Anyway, so back to the question. Did you know what he was going to say and did he know what you were going to say?
No. And the idea is, and I'm sure most people do this, the celebrant, our celebrant read both of ours and gave us feedback.
Okay, like an editor.
Smart.
So her job was to tell us if the tone was different, if one person was going funny and one person was going serious,
Smart.
and to edit it for length and that sort of thing. And it was a little bit funny because she tried to edit Rory's and then he was like, you can't edit my words of love. But I think that role is actually really important because I don't know why, for some reason I look at this guy and he's an absolute pig. I wouldn't marry him. I think that goes without saying, but I'm also not marrying him. She is marrying him. And when you see something like that, I guess you think it's a really weird situation being in front of everyone you know. And sometimes you misread the room and you think, oh, I thought this was for the boys. I thought I was doing this for the boys.
Come on.
And I don't think he is embarrassed. But what I mean is I wonder if this video has been taken out of the context it was intended to be in, which was his family and friends. Who knows?
Still humiliated her and objectified her and degraded her and sexualized her. And that's not what any bride wants. I have a question though about writing your own vows. It feels to me like vows have now become this wedding speeches. Like it used to be that you would say all those things in the speeches, but now the bride and groom have to essentially do it twice.
Yes, and that's why we did like a joint speech that was mostly just thanking people and then did a song.
Because you felt
separate.
that you'd
we'd said the bits to each other.
Yeah.
But interestingly, when it comes to wedding vows, so there was this other video that went viral on TikTok a few weeks ago. And it was in an influencer who I won't name, but her husband on their wedding day gave a speech that was a little bit what people's vows have become. It was kind of him saying how much he loved her. And I saw this clip of him delivering this speech and he is sobbing. And it was the most beautiful 30 seconds. And I got a pang of, did Rory cry that much? Why didn't Rory cry? Why didn't Rory say those exact words about me? And so I was like, oh, I feel a bit uncomfortable about that, which I have thoughts on sharing all the things from your wedding and, I don't know, deciding what's personal and what's not. But anyway, what
are your thoughts about that? Just while we're
well, I don't know if it's I feel a bit funny about seeing the most personal thing someone's ever going to say about you on the internet.
Don't you think though that there are, for some people, a wedding is not, there are two schools of thought about this, that a wedding is not really about you two because you two know how you feel about each other. It's about declaring to everyone else how you feel about each other, right?
True.
It's sort of, there's a performative element to it.
But should you be performing to people you don't even know?
Well, exactly. And also that might depend on the couple and the situation and all those things. Because I know what you mean. Like, my favorite part of weddings are the speeches. Like, I love it. I love hearing all the different, and I love getting those insights into people's relationships and all that stuff. But I presumably, if I'm in the room, I know you at least to a point. So it's interesting. But do you want the entire world to know?
Yeah, I don't know. But
about the toaster and the Twinkie?
Yeah, that might be an in-joke. But when I saw this husband's speech and he's sobbing and talking about his wife, and then you see her reaction, she's crying. And I thought, what a beautiful wedding, what a beautiful moment. Then the internet, because everybody's got a lot of time on their hands, I don't know who did this, found out that what he had said, his words, were actually a poem from the internet and it wasn't original, but he had presented it, the way he said it sounded like it was original. And so he got torn apart. It was reported on in mainstream Australian media. And I thought,
like a gotcha?
Yeah, like a gotcha. Like, how embarrassing. You thought you had this beautiful moment at your wedding, but it's actually
like
not
a gotcha
authentic.
for her.
For both of them.
Okay.
For both of them. And I felt so uncomfortable about that. But I guess that's kind of the risk of us turning weddings into not just an event for your family and friends, but turning it into a content moment, is that you lose some of the special beauty of that. Like, if those words meant something to her, then who cares if it wasn't original?
Yeah. A lot of pressure on people who aren't content creators like we are. Like, to have to write it, to have to get up something and perform it.
Lots of people Google best man's speech, best wedding vows. Jessie crowdsourced what readings should be done at her wedding. Like, not everybody, I mean, don't mean that Jessie can't, but not everybody can find the words for the thing that they want to say without help. And that's fine, right? Because we all have our strengths. This guy, I would love to know whether this guy, now that this has gone TikTok viral, is he like, ho, 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 he, he, or is he mortified? And is she mortified, or does she think it's funny? Because that's really what matters here. I mean, everything that he says there is definitely a red flag, is definitely a sign of toxic masculinity, is definitely a sign of all the patriarchic bullshit that marriage is supposed to be about. Keep my tummy full and my balls empty and all that awfulness. But if they found it hilarious and touching and true to who they are, is it any of our business?